You have a brand new album. It's called Belly of the Beast. From what I
Mhm.
heard, it's a little edgier than maybe some of the last ones. Do you have a new partner in crime? What can you tell me about the album?
Well, it's a lot edgier. In fact, it's heavier, much heavier. I've been wanting to do an album like this for years. Sort of a combination between hard rock and industrial metal. And Peter Tatgren and I hooked up, I'd say about 4 years ago, and we said, let's try something, and maybe we should work together. So he gave me a track real quick, and I wrote to it, sent it back to him. He loved it. I went to his studio. We did a couple of more tracks. We knew we had something going on. We had a break for touring. He had to tour Pain. I was touring Joe and Turner Band. The pandemic hit, and that forced us to sort of finish the project virtually. We worked with Zoom, WhatsApp, Viber, computers, sending files back and forth all the time, recording. And then finally, when things lightened up a bit, we got in the studio for about a week and finished everything up. And here we are with Belly of the Beast.
That's so cool. How did you end up meeting him to begin with?
Well, his brother Tommy was a big fan of mine, so he was having a 50th sort of birthday party or something for him. Big party it was, and he hired me to play. I had never met him before. I knew of Peter, but I'd never met him. And at the party, that's when we started talking and got to realize that we saw a lot of things the same way. Our interests were similar. We loved the paranormal, the occultism, the secret societies, mysticism, things like that.
That's so cool. I'm going to get to that later because I do want to hear about that. You first started with a band called Fandango.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, Richie Blackmore was probably doing Rainbow with Dio. Yeah. I assume you were aware of that. And
with Bonnet at that point.
Okay, were you a fan?
I'd heard of it, but I was sort of doing other things, at the time. My interests were with Fandango, by the way, 4 albums on RCA Records and all. And my interests at that point were a little bit more towards Eagles and jazz, and I was experimenting with different other genres and stuff and writing. So I wasn't that familiar. I heard Since You've Been Gone, something like that, and I knew what he was doing, but I wasn't focused on it, to be honest with you.
Okay, but I assume you grew up with Deep Purple and Zeppelin and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, the Blackmore. I'm originally a guitar player, so I was practicing Blackmore licks since forever. And he was one of my favorite guitar players. And of course, I knew Blackmore and Purple. I used to play Purple songs in my cover band.
Yeah, right on. So how did you actually get the gig? I'm sure you probably told the story a million times, but
yeah. Well, I'll give you the short version.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Living in New York City in a one-room roach-infested apartment, looking for a gig after Fandango broke up. Got a phone call from some guy named Barry Ambrosio, and he started asking me all these questions, and I really was thinking someone was putting me on. And he kept asking me about, Rainbow and Purple and this. And I said, well, look, who are you? What do you want? So I thought one of my friends put him up for this, and then he says, well, I'm standing next to Richie Blackmore. And I said, yeah, put him on. And he did. And it could have been Richie, right? He's like, hello, mate, how are you? All this, So I was like, all right. And then he says, look, I like the way you sing and fancy coming down and audition for us. And I said, absolutely. So he put Colin Hart, the road manager, on the phone. I took a train out to Syosset, Long Island, got into the studio, said hello, maybe 5 minutes at the board. We were talking, and I got right into the studio on the mic, and they started to throw tracks at me. They wanted me to improvise, and they also wanted me to try to write to these tracks. So I had with me, as I always did, is what I call my magic bag, which is full of lyrics and ideas. And I started taking them out, matching some of those up, making up melodies right there on the spot. And then I saw Roger and Richie, who were at the board, nodding to each other. They came in with a couple of beers and said, you got the job if you want it. And I said, want it? I need the job.
That's great. So they found, long story short, they found you, I guess.
Yeah, he said he came to a club out in Long Island where Fandango was playing at one point, and hid in the shadows mysteriously, and and kind of caught what I was doing. You know, I was playing guitar and singing. So he said to me, actually, which was very funny, he says, "You realize you're not going to be playing guitar?" And I said, "Yeah, I kind of figured that."
Yeah, right. Do you remember your first show with Rainbow? Was it a giant, a Norma-Dome kind of?
You know, we do warm-up dates, right? But I was kind of new to it. But still, we went to France and we did a shed, and the shed was a good 10, 15,000 people. So it wasn't one of the enormo domes yet, but certainly it was a good crowd, and for a warm-up gig.
It was a bigger
And
show than the Long Island Club, I guess.
Oh yeah, a little bit. And like I had played shows, big shows before with Fandango, you know, opening for openers and what have you. We were big in Casper, Wyoming, you know. So so what I'm trying to get at is like I played big shows, but I had no idea really what I was exactly getting into. And when this crowd opened up, you know, I was just like, okay, here we go, and that was the warm up. So
it's like the roller coaster starting down the hill, right?
Yeah, man, it was a hell of a ride.
You had 3 albums with Rainbow, and then you left the camp. You eventually came back for Slaves and Masters, which was a Deep Purple album that I actually love. And was it comfortable? Was it comfortable coming back to that, or was it like a weird vibe?
No, not at all. In fact, it was the reason why I went back to that was because it was comfortable. Funny enough, and I'll try to make it short, was I got an offer from Foreigner and Bad Company at the same time, and I went and auditioned for Foreigner, and I became very good friends with Nick Jones and the guys. And then 2 weeks later, Lou decided to come back, and at that point, I was calling the Bad Company camp because this was before Brian Howe, and they were looking for a singer. But then I got the call to Purple. So I was very comfortable with Richie and Roger. And that's why I ended up going up to Vermont and auditioning for Purple. And got the job right then and there, and the rest is history. But thank you. I love that album too. Slaves and Masters is pound for pound a great album.
I'm remembering hearing that you actually started writing for the follow-up to that.
We did. Yeah. We did start. There's a couple of tracks that obviously were rewritten when Gillan came back in. But what happened is that they obviously were offered a deal they couldn't refuse for Ian to come back in, and Richie thought that that was a great way to go. I was completely informed about it. So the interim singer that I was for that, really, as Ian Pace put it in an article, I was the link that kind of held Purple together, so that otherwise Richie would have probably bolted and done something else. So because we did Slaves and Masters and toured it, there was enough time where they actually, I guess the camaraderie returned, and then he accepted Gillan back in, and the rest is history. So I feel like I've really served more than just an album purpose. You know, I actually served part of the legacy, which I'm very proud of.
Totally. How do you stack that album up against your 3 Rainbow albums? If you had,
people have called it Deep Rainbow, because you take 4 guys from Purple and 3 guys from Rainbow, and what are you going to do? Yeah, you're going to come up with Deep Rainbow.
Totally.
But at the same time, in my opinion, I think it was a really great Purple album. Every song very strong. The writing was great. The performances were amazing. So I don't know. I'm very proud of Slaves and Masters, and I happen to know, as Richie said in one of his articles, that it's one of his favorite Purple records.
Oh, that's so cool to hear.
Yeah. I'm glad you like it too.
Now, around that time, maybe just after that, I'm in Connecticut, and I started playing soccer with Richie, and I went to his house for a few parties. And upstairs, they had some seances and tarot card reader up there and stuff.
You better believe it.
being Halloween, can you give me like a supernatural story? Because you must have witnessed something along the way.
Oh, we were deep into it. Please, I can give you heavy stories. I think the story
Give me one, yeah.
I mean, there was one story real quick. We used to stay in the castles in Germany, and because Richie liked them haunted, they were very haunted castles. So anyway, we were sitting up about 3 o'clock in the morning one night, doing some incantations and Ouija and all this stuff, and the piano started playing down in the foyer, and the story was by the night watchman that the manager, one of the managers of this particular establishment, died of a heart attack at the piano, and occasionally the piano played, and it did play that night. And I'll give you another really important big one. We were on tour in the United States, Rainbow, and we were in Memphis, and we were changing buses because our driver, Bill Miller from Florida Coach, was taking a holiday. So Richie and I came down a little bit late out of the hotel, and everything was taken from one bus to the new bus. And so Richie and I walking towards the new bus, and we looked at the driver, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he said, "Do you see it?" And I said, "I see it." And we saw a black aura around the driver because we were really into this kind of stuff, energies and frequencies and supernatural, paranormal stuff. And he had the road manager entice Bill Miller, our original driver, to stay on, and we paid him double, I think, but he stayed on. And that driver because we wouldn't get on the bus with this guy, because when you get on a bus with your driver, you got to be very safe, because we were in Germany when Metallica's bus turned over. We were about a half hour behind them, and you know what happened there. Anyway, this story is where we wouldn't get on a bus with the driver. We felt it was unsafe. Well, that driver, I think his name was Akoff, his last name. He also had a small pilot's license, a small plane license. And he was the guy who hit with Randy Rhoads into the Florida Coach roof.
He was the actual pilot?
He was the actual pilot.
Did anyone at the time, when you saw the black aura around him, did anyone tip him off or say, what are you going to say, right?
No, we wouldn't talk to him. We didn't say a word. We didn't say a word to this guy.
Yeah.
But we got off that. We got on our bus, and we said, "Okay, that's it. Thank you, Bill. Let's drive on, finish the tour." But when we heard about Randy, we knew who it was.
Wow, that's pretty heavy.
It's a very heavy story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Switching gears, because we don't have a lot of time. You did a project with Glenn Hughes, the Hughes Turner Project. You did 2 albums, and those are wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah.
How did that come about?
I was touring Japan, and actually I was in Japan finishing a tour and getting ready for 3 or 4 months later for an additional tour. I was doing an acoustic tour, and then we were going to do an electric tour. And I needed a bass player who could sing. So somebody suggested Glenn Hughes, and I went, absolutely. So I called Glenn. I'm an old friend of Glenn's. We used to hang out in LA like two bandits. We were 2 crazy people. And I called him. He accepted it. We did the tour, and Pony Canyon Records liked it so much they offered us a 2-album deal or whatever, and we called it HDP, and that's how that whole thing started. And we just had a blast doing that. 2 lead singers, and we were doing backgrounds and sharing songs and writing songs together and all. And they are strong projects, I have to admit.
Now, where did it leave off? Could we get a 3rd album at some point, or?
Gee, I don't know about now, because we're all so busy doing different things. But we always said that we wanted to do a 3rd album, but it just never happened. We all got, Glenn got busy, I got busy, and
there was never a falling out or anything. It's cool.
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I just got an email from him with this album saying congratulations and good luck.
Now, I know those albums, they had a strong showing in like Eastern Europe and Russia. You toured Russia. I assume you have friends there at this point. Have you spoke to them, in Ukraine and stuff?
Oh, yeah. We have my wife's relatives in Kharkov. And sure, we speak to them all the time, about what's going on. And, all I want to say to this is that there's more to it than most people realize. You can't believe propaganda all the time. from either side. You know what I mean? So you have to go somewhere. There's like the old story of the truth has three sides: yours, mine, and the truth.
Yeah.
So that's what we said, because we hear different things from the relatives there than what's really being pushed in the Western propaganda. And that's all I really need to say about it, because I'm anti-war, obviously. I mean, I anti any of this stuff, but I'm also like anti-politics at this point. If you listen to Belly of the Beast, I don't like being lied to by our government, by any government for that matter. I don't like being controlled like that. And I think that's what the problem today is, that we're headed towards some type of slavery, really, almost like robotic slavery. And we've got to be very careful. So I wrote Belly of the Beast to try to wake up people and say, look around you, man, because it's really happening. We're in deep trouble.
But your friends and your relatives are all safe and sound right now.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Everybody's good. No problem.
I got to say, you're rocking a new look.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. You know,
I have a friend.
Is unbelievable.
I have a friend who was Richie's PA back for House of Blue Light, and he told me. Now I can ask you. He said you had scarlet fever as a kid.
No, I didn't have. Well, I had a lot of stuff. All kids get measles and stuff. But no, what happened to me was, believe it or not, the doctors think this is an autoimmune disease, alopecia. And what that means is that your body is shocked by something, and that it goes into a shock, and it takes on a form of, it closed down the follicles. Although my follicles are still alive, and I can grow hair if I wanted to take these drugs, but the side effects aren't worth it.
Exactly.
Not at all. I wouldn't do that shit. And they think that it was back then in the 50s, I was born in 51. So, they were giving babies, and they're still doing it, which I'm totally against, is inoculating babies too early, because the blood barrier in the brain is not formed. You have to wait till at least 2 years before your blood barrier in your brain is formed. Therefore, whatever's in this system doesn't go into your brain and shut off different systems. So they feel that it was probably that shocked my body. And I was treated several times by different doctors with steroids and whatever. And hair came back, and then it left, and it came back, and then it left. And I just finally gave up and said, whatever. And I started wearing the hairpiece, the wigs, when I was about 12 to 14, because I wanted to do rock and roll. And at that point, it was all about hair.
Yeah, exactly.
And regardless of all the stuff about being bullied as a kid, and things like that, which is a really cruel type of situation. Especially kids can be very cruel when you're young. I think it really helped me become stronger, more motivated, more disciplined to achieve higher ground, because I would always want to be best at whatever it was I did.
Yeah.
So in a way, the curse was a blessing, and
it made you
decided
stronger.
Very much. I guess it's Nietzsche, what does not destroy me makes me stronger.
Exactly.
So to make a long story short, I decided, with the love of my family and support of my family and friends, they said, come on, man, just update yourself. And I said, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. And now this liberation, this freedom gives me the freedom that when I'm singing old Joe Lynn Turner songs, I put the hair on.
All right, there you go. Yeah. And it got people talking.
Yeah. And when I do Belly of the Beast, I'm like this. This is show business, man. If kids can do it, if all these, this is, you know what it is? Everybody, Glenn wrote me, and he said, everybody wears a costume.
Yep.
And I said, it's Shakespeare. We're all actors on a stage. Kiss has been doing it for years, with makeup and wigs, no makeup and wigs. You've got bands like Slipknot and Ghost and all of these configurations. So I never thought it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's funny how a medical condition like this, which you have no control over, people, even as adults, they're still making fun of you. It's really says a lot more about them than it does me.
It does. Are we going to see some Joe Lynn Turner shows in the neighborhood here on the East Coast at some point?
You better, because, man, I want to come back in 23, probably start in the spring, because I learned that touring in the winter is a very dangerous project.
Yeah.
Too many accidents happen during the winter on the black ice and inclement weather, and I've seen too many accidents, and people get really hurt. So I like to start maybe around the beginning of March. So yeah, we're lining up some things now. We're trying to get on a bill with maybe some a genre where it's a little bit more metal oriented than hard rock, because I think that this album is definitely in that direction.
Oh,
You know,
fantastic.
and I'm staying in this direction right now. This is where I am for these years.
Well,
I've got a new life and a new era.
let me wish you all the success and all the best for
Thanks,
next
man.
year. And thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks, man. Hey, it's really crazy that you were in Blackmore's house and played soccer. You know we had a team, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right.
Right on.
Okay.
I'll see you along the
Hey,
way.
man. Thank you very much.
All the
Later.
best to you. All the
Later.
best to you.
Later.